Have you ever noticed that the Dinka Jester Classic, despite being a Honda in-game, is clearly not a Honda? What about the Weenie Dynasty, which is definitely not a Mini Cooper? Rockstar Games have made many mistakes when building the GTA 5 car manufacturers, getting over 100 cars manufacturers incorrect. Today, we break down every car manufacturing mistake Rockstar has ever made, and after that, I'll tell you the 23 car manufacturers that they got completely right. And for the sake of time, we are skipping bikes, planes, boats, and helicopters. Albany is made to copy Cadillac, though the Albany Hermes and Albany Washington are actually Fords, specifically the 1951 Mercury 8 and the 2002 Lincoln Town Car. The Albany Buccaneer is also not a Cadillac, but instead a 65 Buick Riviera. Annis only contains one mistake. Rockstar believed the Annis Silvestra to be a Nissan, but it's actually a Mazda Savana. At least they got the name pretty close. BF, or
Bürgerfahrzeug,
is Volkswagen or Volkswagen, and again only has one car that doesn't align. The BF Raptor is heavily based on the Campania T-Rex, but this case along with others in this video may make more sense as the manufacturer in question is very small and would take a lot of effort to make its own branding in-game. Bravado, however, is a very large manufacturer and it represents Dodge. However, the Rumpo and Paradise are based on the Ford E-Series van. And the Verlier is an amalgamation of the TVR Sagaris and the Weissman GT NF5. Brute is the in-game version of GMC, which is owned by General Motors. Brute makes the camper van, which is actually 2002 Chevrolet Express RV, which is also owned by General Motors. However, GMC and Chevy bear different logos. The Festival Bus and Prison Bus are both based on the International S-Series. Cheval, though it sounds similar to Chevy, is actually Holden, an Australian manufacturer. The Marshall's main body is based on a 1975 Dodge Charger that's been converted into a monster truck. The Picador is based on the 72 El Camino, which is owned by Chevrolet. Finally, the Cheval Type-On is not Holden based, but instead models after the Hennessy Venom F5. Coil, originally based on Tesla, has become the dumping ground for various other electric manufacturers. The Coil Cyclone and Cyclone 2 are both based on Rimac cars, while the Brawler is really out of place here as it's based on Local Motors Rally Fighter, which isn't even an electric vehicle. Now, to tackle one of the biggest manufacturers in the entire game, the Classe aka Chevrolet. And boy, is there a lot. First, the Tampa is based on a 72 Dodge Dart Demon, making it the Bravado Tampa. The Stallion and Sabre Turbo are similar and based on the 1970 Oldsmobile Cutlass and Oldsmobile 442. The Rhapsody is Chrysler's AMC Pacer, making it a Shyster, and the Mamba is clearly a Shelby Cobra Mark III. The DR1 is a Dallara DW12 Indy car, and the Scramjet is Mach 5, a fictional car from the movie Speed Racer. Dinka, as mentioned earlier, is GTA 5's Honda, despite the fact they claim to have made the Jester Classic and Jester RR, which are both versions of the Toyota Supra. The Dinka Versys is also incorrect, actually being an Articat. Dundry represents a luxurious Lincoln, but also claims the Regina, a Plymouth Theory Sport Suburban. Grotti is an obvious ripoff of Ferrari. Despite having many cars, still tries to claim every Fiat in the game, with the Brioso RA and the Brioso 300, which are based on different years of the Fiat 500. The Grotti Furia is also not a Ferrari, but instead a Pininfarina Battista, which is another Italian manufacturer. The Vigilante is obviously a Batmobile and not a Ferrari. Imponte is Pontiac, but two of their cars aren't. The Nightshade is actually a 73 Camaro, and the Deluxo is the infamous DMC DeLorean. Even though we just recently spoke about Chevrolet, their back is Invetero, which is specifically Corvette or Coquette manufacturers. But why does that have to be the case? Why can't it just be a D-Class Coquette lineup? Joe built and Peter built. See the play there? Clever one, Rockstar. But what isn't clever is labeling 1/3 of their vehicles wrong. The Trashmaster is a Mack truck and the Hauler is a Kenworth K100. Toyota is a brand of reliability and loyalty, until the devs at Rockstar Games decided to fuck it up on them. Karen is not only missing cars, but it has 5 cars that don't belong to their classification. The Kuruma is a Mitsubishi Lancer. The Intruder is a 2006 Infiniti Q45 or Fathom. Karen also houses every Subaru in the game, the Boar, aka Subaru Brat, the Sultan, which is a 90s GC Impreza WRX, and the Sultan Classic, which is an Impreza GC8. Maserati is portrayed by Lampadati, which also features the Komoda and the Michelin GT, which are Alfa Romeo owned. The Pagani, which is Citroen SM, the two Tomasos in the form of the Taygon and the Viceris, and lastly the Tropos Rally or Lancia Stratos. Maxwell is a weird one, however, as they only have 2 cars, but they both released on the same day. So one of them is wrong and one of them is right. But until we get clarification from Rockstar, we'll never truly know which is which. MTL represents Mack trucks, but like a lot of the truck manufacturers, there's a lot of overlap. The Cerberus is modeled after a Peterbilt, which means it should be a Joe build. The Dune is a Takarman TGS, the Flatbed is a 2004 International, while the Packer is a 94 International. The Brigade also loosely resembles a MAN TGS 6x6 Expedition truck. Nagasaki, aka Kawasaki, primarily produces bikes, but they also produce two Caddies, which are based on versions of the Club Car Golf Cart, and the Outlaw, which is the game's only side-by-side and should be produced by Can-Am. An Ocelot is a type of Cad, but so is a Jaguar, so this parody company is pretty easy to determine. But its vehicles, not so much. The Pariah is the first mistake in this lineup, being an Aston Martin Vanquish. Every other car here is either an actual Jaguar or a Lotus, which has enough cars to be its own brand in game. The Ardent is the Lotus Esprit, the Locust is the Lotus 311, the Stromberg is the 78 Lotus Esprit, and the R88 is the Lotus 97, and finally, the Virtue is a Lotus Avesia. Whew. Overflawed mimics Condensed with their cars, except the Tyrant, which is a copy of the Apollo Arrow. The Goomport Natalie is shown as an Amorgon, while the Xeno showcases features from the SSC Tuatara? That one. GTA 5 does have many luxurious car brands, such as Pegassi, which is Lamborghini. However, they also have the Zeroso, which is loosely based on the Itala design Zero Una Duerta, and the Osiris, which is Pagani-owned. Princip specialized in motorbikes as they mirror Ducati, however the one and only car they claim to produce is the Devastate 8, which is actually owned by Devel. Rune is a spin-off of the Eastern European brand Lada, with the one exception of the Zaba, which is produced by another Eastern European company called Sherp. Stanley not only has a vehicle that doesn't go by the John Deere name, but it's the second company based on John Deere. And the Rusty tractor isn't even that, it's based on the Ford N series. Ubermacht copies BMW very well, with the exception of the Revolter, which should be Albany as it's based on the Cadillac Escala concept. Ford is another one of the largest manufacturers in GTA 5, however, 5 of their vehicles are stolen property. The minivan is obviously a Dodge Caravan, the Bobcat XL is a Chevy CK Dually, the Speedo is also a Chevy resembling the Express van, while the Benson is an International 4700. But the one vehicle that drives me up the wall crazy is the Vapid Contender, which is based on various models of the 2007 to 2013 Toyota Tundra. And I drive this vehicle personally. I know in previous games, the Contender was based on a Ford Lightning, but it shouldn't be in this game. This is the Toyota. This should be a Karen. This is my truck. Don't do this to me, Rockstar. Let me remove the bump. There are a few vehicles that aren't claimed by any brand in GTA 5, but they should be Vapid. And that's the Ambulance and Police Cruiser, which are labeled in the files as having unknown manufacturers. Vulcar is Volvo, which made the Warner and Warner HKR, which are both actually based on Datsuns and should be labeled as so. Weenie is very recognizable as Mini, but alongside numerous Mini Coopers, there's the Weenie Dynasty, which is made by Morris, and it's the only non-Mini Cooper here. And last but not least, the Zirconium is based on Fleetwood, but the Stratum should be Dinka, as it's based on the 97 Honda Accord wagon. So there you have it, 34 vehicles that should have their manufacturers changed to other existing manufacturers, and 78 cars that should be placed in 37 new brands that would need names. But let's quickly fire off the manufacturers that have zero mistakes in their entire vehicular lineup. And they are Benefactor and Mercedes, Bolocon and Hyundai, Canis as Jeep, Chariot and Federal Coach, Classique and Oldsmobile, Dubachi aka Aston Martin, Emperor as Lexus, Ennis as an even copy of Bentley and Rolls-Royce, Fathom and Infiniti, Gallivanter as Range Rover, Hijack as Fisker and Huel, Maibatsu as Mitsubishi, Mammoth as the beastly Hummer, Obey as Audi, Pinaud as Renault, Progen as McLaren, Pfister as Porsche, Shyster as Chrysler, Tundra as Alpine, Truffaude showcasing Bugatti, Vicer as Skyker, and finally Willard as Buick. Rockstar also made mistakes with the classification of vehicles like the Ballista being in the Compact class, but the Ballista Compact is in the Sports Car class. If you want to see a comprehensive list of these mistakes, consider subscribing.